Good morning and happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's Market of the Moment. I am Don Tchaikovsky with Fidelity National Title, and we have our usual gang of characters this week. So we have Miss Mindy Jones, the owner of the Amy Jones Group, and Mindy's going to be giving us a update later on the Phoenix market and what is happening out here with a little inventory situation we've got going on. And she's going to be joined in that update by Mr. Jesse Herfel, the operating principal of Keller Williams Integrity First. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Mindy, thank you as well.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I'm checking my privacy settings on my Facebook real quick to make sure that we're able to see people's comments as they ask questions. So also with Guild Mortgage, Ms. Amber Cavazos. Amber, thank you so much for being a part of this each week.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And Amber will be giving us an update on the latest of the nearly free money in the mortgage industry. So, so we are looking forward to that. And my co-moderator, Ms. Sharon Shahoon, the Vice President of Sales for Fidelity National Title. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning. Happy Valentine Week, everybody. Hope you're all ready for an exciting weekend.
Yeah, it's that time, right? And now it just reminded me, now I need to go shopping. So,
see?
Am I late
what I'm
for this?
here for today. I'm going to remind everybody, Sunday, Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Sharon. So, and as everybody knows, each week we have a special guest on, and Andrew Cavazos. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Cavazos. There you go.
Cavazos. See, I'm almost Hispanic. Andrew is joining us from Phone Animal, and Andrew, thank you so much for joining us as our special guest this week. And I am so excited to pick your brain about lead generation and helping our partners build some inventory out there. And I think, that is our number one topic. That's the number one thing we've been talking about for the last several weeks of how to get more listings. So before we dive into the meat of all that, though, Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up at Phone Animal, and what your experience has been around phone prospecting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got into real estate in 2014. I joined a gentleman named Tim Heil. He's got a real estate company here in Austin, Texas. At that moment, I was the fifth agent to join the team. I joined in as a buyer specialist and was fortunate enough to step into just an agent that could work on the sell side and the buy side. And the way Tim designed his business when I first joined him is he had an ISA department of 3 ISAs at that time that were doing circle prospecting. Which was calling on specific neighborhoods that we wanted listing opportunities in. And so for every agent on the team as well, we had a circle prospect as well. We had to do 3 to 4 hours of lead generation per day. That was how we built our business, especially as a newer agent. I had no sales experience jumping into it. It was pounding the phones, cold calling sellers, calling expireds, calling FSBOs, and then working online leads that we had come in. And so I was fortunate enough to do right around 40 transactions my first year, 50 transactions my second year, and it all came through sheer making phone calls. And so, with having some of that success early, I jumped into some different leadership roles inside of the Heil Group, helped build that organization with Tim and another individual named Matt Patulski, who's the current president of that organization now, from 5 agents to 70 agents, from 1 location to 7 locations. And that led me into jumping into to take over as the president of Phone Animal. And so at Phone Animal, that is exactly what our inside sales agents do for a majority of the agents that we're in business with. We have over 240 inside sales agents currently located in Jamaica, the Philippines, and the United States. And so for our clients, who's a majority of these individuals are inside real estate, like ourselves, we do the cold calling, right? It's not necessarily fun calling neighborhoods all day. It's obviously a necessity, especially in times like this when inventory is tight, to generate those listing opportunities. But our inside sales agents are calling on behalf of our agents, finding individuals, highlighting the hand raisers of people who are thinking about making the move. And we hit a certain set of criteria that we define as a nurture. And so, yeah, that's kind of been my background to get into to Phone Animal. And I've been here since 2017 now.
It's funny. I forgot all about Matt. Matt's actually how I got connected with you guys. Sharon and I were working with some attorneys in Atlanta, and they're like, "Hey, you need to talk to Matt." And so I talked to Matt, and he got us connected. And so,
gosh, I forgot about that too.
Yeah. So I've been working with Andrew and his team for a couple of years now, and we've just seen so many different things and such versatility in what you guys are able to offer for clients who are looking to build that part of their business. And I know for Jesse, this is an area where Jesse, like when I first started working at Fidelity, I walked into Jesse's office. It was one of the first offices I was in, and he had his area set up for his internal ISA team. And Jesse, how was that running an ISA team? Oh, Jesse was.
I was gonna say, you're on.
And we interrupted him.
I'm the right button. You gotta find the right button. So your question is, how is it to run an ISA team?
Yeah, I'm like, so running an ISA team, from my understanding, is not an easy process, right? With the finding the right talent, keeping the right talent, all of those things has been one of the biggest challenges.
Well, 100%, and in fact, Tim, and Gary's top 100 mastermind with Tim, a lot of that was learned a lot from Tim and that group. So I think that's where the word nurture came from several years ago. But it's a leadership role, because ultimately somebody like Andrew is overseeing and training and consulting that entire ISA team, right? And then ensuring that they're having the right conversations, and it's a full-time leadership position. So to be able to leverage that out to somebody that has the skill set and the ability to scale and reach any number of contacts you want on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is awesome.
Yeah, I agree, and that's where we see people, and I've known many people who've looked to build out their own ISA team. And Andrew, not everybody is ready to jump into phone animal, right? So we've got agents who are participating in this, who are newer to real estate and still building, and one of the great fundamentals that I think of in real estate, and that I know is part of the Millionaire Real Estate book, is leading with revenue, right? So not everybody's ready to go and make a financial commitment to employ somebody to do these things for them yet. But what would you say, with your experience around phone prospecting, what would you say are like maybe the 2 or 3 most important things that somebody can do if they're looking to start adding this as a leg of their business?
Yeah, if you're looking at starting to add this as a leg of your business, number one, you got to make the commitment. Circle prospecting isn't a short-term game where you can make an hour of phone calls a day and all of a sudden you're going to see listings come through. You're going to have to be committed to about 2.5 to 3 hours per day consistently. And so you got to make the commitment, not just for the short term, but for the long term. We obviously use the word nurture because you have to nurture these leads. Most of these individuals that you're speaking to usually are 6 to 12 months out. And there's a statistic done by the National Association of Realtors that say people on average sign with the first realtor they meet with 83% of the time. So the reason that is once again, someone enters your home, you're having a very private conversation, you're giving them a tour. As long as you feel you got good rapport with that individual and that they can sell your home, you're going to more than likely move forward with them. And so if you're getting in front of these people 6 to 12 months before they're looking at doing anything, the probability is very favorable on your side of the court, right? But you got to keep in touch with these individuals. So it's not just about the initial phone call, it's also about the nurturing. And so, you got to make the commitment is what I'd say, number one. Number two is you're going to have some systems. This nurture can't go on a sheet of paper and you got to remember it. Even if you don't have a CRM, you can get scrappy with Excel sheets. We've done that with certain clients, like just to get things going. If you have a CRM, amazing, put it in the CRM, but you're going to have a system that allows you to stay on top of these leads. And then last but not least, I would say make sure you do have a definition of what a nurture is. Our definition is our definition. I think it's a pretty good universal definition. But the more defined you can get with what you're putting in your pipeline, the more predictable your pipeline is going to be.
So I think that is a huge point. What is your definition of a nurture? For somebody that had a database, has one over 10,000, had one over 20,000, meaning 50% of it should not have been in there, and had to take a lot of time and pay a lot of money to have it cleaned up and have a workable database. So what do you define as a nurture for your database that you can then follow up with and work proactively?
Yeah, great question. So we kind of call it our 5 criteria of success with that nurture. So number 1, we know their motivation. So what has them thinking about wanting to sell? Obviously, for everyone listening on this call, you understand how important motivation is during that process. It's the gold nugget. It's the thing that's going to make them list at the right price, take that right offer, to handle things on the inspection. You're going to use it throughout the entire process, and it's going to get you also in the door for closing an appointment as well. So a motivation, what has them wanting to sell or buy? Next, time frame. And typically for us, time frame, once again, provides that predictability around the pipeline. We're typically looking for people that are 12 months or less. Once they start getting past 12 months, the probability of them doing something drops pretty dramatically. And so we used to can be more broad with that and be like 24 months, but we would find everyone that was past the 12-month mark was just it wasn't necessarily worth keeping them through our systems. And so 12 months or less is typically what we'd say for time frame, but having a time frame. So if you want to keep people that are 24 months out, no problem. Like, it's, once again, your pipeline, but 12 months or less. So having a clear and direct time frame. Next, of course, confirming they're not already committed to a realtor. Big thing out here, I'd say, y'all, is committed. Don't be afraid to ask people if they sign paperwork. A lot of people have not. If they're talking to you and their home's not listed, they don't have paperwork just signed with an agent. Of course, you will come across that random person that is actually engaged with another realtor, have it already signed. They're planning on listing 2 months from now. No problem. That's why we ask to protect ourselves. But ask because you're going to come across a lot of people who aren't committed and they're open to a second opinion, which could be yours. So not committed to a realtor. Number 4, agreed upon follow-up. So they, you got to get a point in time where they agree that you're following up with them and they're agreeing that you can follow up with them. And then last but not least, confirming contact information, making sure that you have the best phone number for them, a secondary phone number for them, an email address, and then confirming their home address. Sometimes when you pull up, depending on your data source, sometimes when you pull up information, you're calling them on what might be a rental property, and they might be thinking you're talking about their current home. That isn't the home that you're matching on. So you're running a CMA, you're getting information about the wrong address. Now, although that's more rare, we've seen it happen, and so always ask to make sure that you have the best address on file. Helps with, once again, follow-up tools, whether you want to do handwritten letter, all that fun stuff, right? So that is our 5 criteria that we use to define as a nurture.
I love it. And by the way, I would add, you don't need an ISA team to have that as your criteria. That is a very solid criteria with permission-based type follow-up, right? Now they've given you permission to follow up with them, and you have the correct information to follow up on.
Absolutely.
So you said that 83% of sellers sign with the first agent they meet with, right? And I just want to put an exclamation mark on what you said, that they're starting. They sign with the first one they meet with 6 to 12 months after they've started the idea of, I want to sell or buy, right?
Yep.
And or both. So it is true. People are starting their searches. They're starting their planning 6 to 12 months before. So your game is to be top of mind as that timeline gets closer to when they're ready to transact. Right?
Absolutely. And once it gets to that 6-month point, we call that the appointment alarm. We say that a lot here at Phone Animal. That's the appointment alarm. If you hear that their time frame is less than 6 months, close. Get in front of them. There's no harm that's going to come from that, especially on the sell side right now with inventory being so low. It's just getting in front of them because you aren't the only one that's calling them. You aren't the only one doing mailers. You aren't the only one doing door knocking, holding open houses. And so at that time frame, at that 6-month time frame, typically what we find is a lot of the times they are open to meeting, right? They are open to getting, having you be in front of them. So, and if they're not, don't set a dramatically long follow-up. Check back in with them 2 to 3 weeks. Every 2 to 3 weeks, be on top of mind. It could be a text, it can be an email, it could be a phone call, but you don't want to miss that opportunity.
And you want to embrace them into your world, right? And I think this is something that Mindy does an amazing job of with her prospective sellers and buyers, and that like once you're connected to them, then you start building that relationship and making sure that they're part of your client appreciation events, making sure they're part of your other outbound communications, and I think that's really important that you look to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so important about having the definition, to Jesse's point and to Andrew's point, is that the definition of the nurture just helps you determine what follow-up looks like with them. It's not to say that if they don't meet that criteria, there isn't any follow-up. It's just that there's going to be a different method for which you're following up with nurtures versus folks who maybe are still kind of in a lead category. And then obviously making sure that, you know, motivation and timeline ensures that if you need more intensive follow-up, that you're putting that in a prescriptive way, and you're not pushing people that aren't quite ready to that point yet with that type of regular communication. So there is a strategy for all levels, but if you don't have a clear definition of your levels, you can't be prescriptive about your approach, and therefore you're not coming from a place of contribution. You're not helping them because you're just using kind of a one-size-fits-all strategy.
Exactly.
Oh, Andrew, yeah, that was a pause. Was that a pause moment?
Pause faster than me. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
Well, I think so. Nurture. I think the big thing, and Andrew could probably speak to this, is the bigger percentage of people are not sitting by the phone and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you called today. I was just about to pick up the phone and call a realtor to come over and list my house." Right? We have to remember we're calling these people in the middle of a day that the last thing on their mind was your phone call. So it truly is a conversation starter, and if you take not make it so transactional, ultimately a nurture is deepening a relationship and providing value at such a level over a period of time that so that when they do and when they are ready to transact, it's you they call. Because remember, in that 6 to 12 months, they've been thinking and considering their options as it relates to moving and transacting. How many portals have they gotten put into?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Andrew, I have a question for you in regards to scripts. Obviously, scripting is extremely important for success of cold calling. If you have somebody brand new to Arizona and they just moved here and they want to get started and they've never done cold calling, how would you suggest that they go about writing those scripts for the market? Is your team familiar with the market? Do you help write those scripts, or is it something that they just have to come to you and have to already have? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, the great news is, and obviously for the ISA standpoint, we typically don't go to get crazy deep in market knowledge for those conversations, right? The beauty behind us is finding the hand raisers and seeing where they're at. And what I would say is that once again, because once you're starting to make these calls, a lot of these individuals are further out. You don't need to be a market expert. If you're looking at designing the script, keep it simple. You're going to have your introduction. You're going to have your qualifying questions. We sprinkle in some value, right? Because you want them to know who you are. If they're going to remember your name, you want to add some type of value to the world about what makes you maybe different than the other agent that might be calling them 6 weeks from now. And then we have a close, and the close is breaking off into, if their time frame's less than 6 months, we go after the appointment. If their time frame's more than 6 months, we go after a follow-up where we cut their time frame down, typically in half. We won't set a follow-up more than 90 days because things change. And so I'd say keep it simple. And during that time, right, especially as you're newer to the market, really absolve yourself in understanding those areas, and then be purposeful. I would choose specific neighborhoods that you probably live close by and that you want to do business, because you live close by, it's going to allow you to get familiar quicker. And then by you not jumping all across the map, it's going to allow you to master certain areas. And once you get those areas down, then you can start opening up the map to other areas and take that methodology you use to get good in those areas and go into those next areas and probably pick it up quicker.
Well, and right now with the type of inventory that we have, it's not only are we able to get specific because it's an area we want to work, but it's an area that we need to find homes for our clients of ours. So we can get real specific, right? I mean, you can call neighborhoods. And more than likely, anyone watching this who's in the industry, or even if you're not and you're working with an agent, you know, ask them if they're doing this for you. But when we get buyers, we're calling and saying we have someone who's looking for, you know, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths in your area, and they're trying to stick around this price point. We haven't met yet, but is this something that you guys would be interested in doing if we could make a match with one of our clients? I mean, we've got very specific examples that we can share right now.
Absolutely.
Well, and Andrew, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What I love about your group, though, is that you work with so many agents in Arizona right now that you have a great knowledge of our market too, and what's working as far as the scripts go. You have that already, a lot of that, which I love. So anybody wanting to work with you, you already have a lot of that knowledge too.
Absolutely. And then to Mindy's point, what I'd say too is, like, if you're going to that brand new agent as well, you're like, well, man, I don't have a buyer. Trust me, there's buyers in your brokerage. Sharon and Don probably have some agents that would love to have someone call in neighborhoods to find them a house that is, you know, not there. And you get the benefit of getting the leads that are further down. Hey, you're not a now buyer, but, you know, you're not a now seller, which means you're not a match for my now buyer. I'll have more buyers in the future. So don't be afraid to share that message, because you 100% do have buyers in your network, because your network is your brokerage. Your network is Don and Sharon, right? Your network is your colleagues. And so guaranteed, if you really look hard enough, you have a buyer that's probably actively looking there, that you could, if you came across an off-market property that wasn't ready to list but would match with a buyer, you could absolutely go find, especially with inventory being so tight right now.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we look at, you know, the act of making these calls, the act of phone prospecting is really about business building, right? It's not about building a single transaction. It's about building out that nurture piece that you've spoken so much about already, and it's about building that pipeline. So, you know, because I think that's one of the frustrations for people who start calling, is that they make 6 phone calls and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, this list is bad, these people are bad, nobody wants to sell, you know, and that first, the conversion rate on this, you have to have an understanding of what that should look like. You need to understand that there are, you know, that you're in that 3 to 5% range. If you're getting 3 to 5% people moved into your nurture, that's really good. And so, you know, from there, that you know that you now have more work to do, but you have people to target with the work, right? You've got people to start pairing things up with. You know, if you didn't watch last week's when we had Easy Knock on with Market of the Moment, you know, for those people who are like, where will I go? I don't know what to do. If I sell my house, I can't find another house. You know, that leveraging tools like that are going to be important as well.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is there's no way that you can talk to more people than you can through the phone. There's just not another method for you to be able to touch as many people in a short amount of time. It doesn't mean everybody's business needs to be wholly revolving around this one strategy, but this strategy should be a component of everybody's business, because when you're building your relationships, you've got to focus on some immediates, right? Some immediate partnerships and relationships and clients that you're going to have. Some, you know, mediums, your nurturers, 6 to 12 month folks, and then a year, 2, 3 years down the line, right? So it is a piece of the business in order to allow you to talk to more people in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I love that. Dawn, you just said my favorite word. I can't not talk about it for 2 seconds. You said leverage. Leverage is my 2021 word. And I love that you said it, because leveraging your partners like Fidelity National Title and Amber with Guild, and, you know, if, gosh, Jesse would talk to anybody, Mindy would, any, you know, in the real estate world, you know, Andrew, a great resource. But here at Fidelity, that's what we have. We leverage all these amazing resources that we have and introduce our clients to them. And Easy Knock's another great one that you guys got to hear about last week. So thanks, Don.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Andrew, let me ask you this question. So if I'm a brand new agent, or if I'm somebody who's been around for a little bit and I'm ready to leverage somebody like Phone Animal, and I'm like worried that I don't have enough people to call, right? So who are they going to call? To have a full-time person doing this for me, what does that look like? Where would I get all of this information on people to call?
Yeah, so great question. There's a couple of different data providers out there. Ivy Data is a data provider that I believe Fidelity has a really good relationship with. Co-Realty Resource is another data provider that is out there. They provide information for homeowners, and you can pick based on zip code, neighborhood. Obviously make sure you're following the necessary guidelines when it comes to pulling that type of data, scrubbing it against the DNC, which require you to get a SAN number, which is free to get a subscription account number. With the DNC is free. You get 5 area codes. Highly suggest you do it. You just got to register your business with it, but very easy to scrub against that DNC. And you're going to be looking at, if you had a full-time person making those phone calls, and if you're that full-time person, it's like, well, how much data would I need to have per month to call? You're going to need anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 fresh records per month. And you want to call those individuals at least 3 to 4 times during that month period. Not all on the same day, right? So you want to sporadic it out. But that's our methodology in regards to making phone calls. And then those same people, we recycle once a quarter. Why? Numbers get fresh. We change our phone numbers to the outbound caller ID that we're making. We know that maybe they weren't picking up at that moment because of life, and then now 4 months down the road things have changed, and they're maybe a little bit more aggressive at picking up their phone. And so, that's what I'd say. Those data resources, by the way, are I would say not crazy expensive. Obviously, if you're brand new in the business, an expense, whether it's $10 or $1,000, understand you want to be purposeful on your expenses. But what I'd say is most data providers, you're looking at anywhere between $800 to $2,000 for the entire year, not monthly, but for the entire year to be able to get your hands on those. I think most of them will give you up to 5,000 to 10,000 pools. If you have Mojo, if you already have Vulcan, they do neighborhood data as well, RedX. So if you already have a data provider that's maybe helping with like expired or FSBOs, typically those providers also have the circle prospecting data, the neighborhood data. And if you combine them, sometimes they roll discounts in. But yeah, those are some of the resources that you need. And then the amount of numbers you would need to have available to keep you busy on a month-to-month basis. But once again, that's if you're pounding the phones for, our callers do 6.5 hours of calling per day, 800 dials. So that's if you're doing that type of call and you need that amount of data. If you're doing the 3 hours of day of lead generation, you probably need closer to about 1,000 to 2,000 fresh records a month.
Yeah, and this is something that we can help you. Is if you're thinking about taking this and integrating this into your business, if you want to start going after those off-market listing opportunities, you want to start reaching out to those folks. We can get you plugged into all of that data, right? So all the sources that Andrew has mentioned, we've got access to. Additionally, we've got predictive analytics, so we can help you get connected with a resource to pull. I mean, there's even systems where we can help you get connected to knowing when people are having children, when people are getting married, when people are getting divorced. All these big life events that make it more likely somebody's going to be selling their home. So we've got access to that kind of data as well, and can help you get plugged into that. And I think that is that is a great place to start. Whenever I talk to people about circle prospect, I'm like, where do you want to be? Much like what Andrew talked about, that neighborhood around where you live is probably a great place to start. But let's look and make sure it doesn't have a 3% turnover rate, because if nobody ever leaves the neighborhood, then as much as we want to work it, doesn't mean that's going to be very, very good for us. So we can help you find and target those right neighborhoods and get plugged in to the tools and resources to get the phone numbers, the email addresses, and everything you need around there as well. So Andrew, so tell me now, if somebody says, you know what, I can't do this all myself. I need help. I need to get plugged in with somebody like Andrew at Phone and On. Well, what does that look like for them? What does that look like as far as getting something like that started, and what resources do you have available?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to leverage our services, so what we do is we once again provide fully trained, fully managed, and fully supported inside sales agents to real estate agents like yourself. And so, I think Jesse mentioned earlier, I think one of your questions, Don, was like, hey, what does it look like managing and building that team? And then there's 4 facets to it. There's recruiting, there's training, there's managing, and leading. And I've separated managing and leading very purposely, because managing is holding people accountable to the numbers. Leading is keeping people motivated with their job. And when you're making 6.5 hours of phone calls a day, you gotta be motivated, and you gotta be constantly checked in with, and you gotta make sure that there's still purpose in what you're doing. It's easy to lose that sometimes when you're getting told no a lot throughout the entire day, to find that 1 or 2 yes. And so, for us, what we do is we're doing all that on your behalf. And so you'll go through our implementation process. During our implementation process, we kind of help build out a mini ISA department for you. Inside of, with my background inside of, understanding how inside sales teams work inside of real estate teams, we go through our 5 pillars of success with our implementation process, which is designing the scripting with you, making sure you're understanding what we're saying on the phone and why. We go through the systems and processes. So if you have a CRM, we talk about how do we get our nurtures in your CRM, because we want to make sure that that data is there for you and you know what to do with it once it does hit your CRM. Next, we talk about the handoff process. We want to make sure if we come across someone that's within that 6-month time frame, how do you want to be notified so that you can get on the phone with that person and close them? We go through reporting, because reporting is important. You got to know your numbers. We got to understand what's going on, and it's good for you to have an idea of what the impact we're making for you on the phone is. And then we go over just communication. How do you like to be communicated with? How often do you want to be communicated with? What do you want sent your way? And so during our implementation process, we go through that with you. And then with us, it's you have an opportunity to interview your ISA just to make sure they're a good fit for your business. We understand that personality styles mesh well with personality styles. So all of our ISAs go through our recruiting process. They go through our boot camp prior to getting put in front of you. But you have the opportunity to make sure that you feel comfortable with this person representing your brand. We know brand representation is important. At that standpoint, we'll make sure that we have everything ready to launch. And then typically after 3 to 4 weeks of signing with Phone Animal, your ISA is on the phone doing 6.5 hours a dial a day for you, calling the neighborhoods that we've worked with you to pick on, and we help integrate the data, the dialer. We have aspects that can help you build that, even if you're not familiar with it. We have relationships similar, like Don mentioned about some of the relationships he has. We have relationships that we can help with to get that all set up for you, to make it I wouldn't call it a hands-off experience. You're going to have to put a little bit of work in. Obviously, you're going to have to go and get the logins and stuff like that. But we really make sure that you're getting everything that you need, and it can answer, all the questions that you have during the process.
Andrew, I have one additional question for you. What about the agent that says, I can't have, somebody else calling my clients? They're going to know it's not me. And how do you train them or coach the agents on that? Your team's how they handle that call, like representation from the team, I guess, is for lack of better.
Yeah, absolutely. So besides doing cold calling, we absolutely call on people's pipeline, their database, and also do inbound conversion for them. And so, with inbound and database during that implementation process, we're very purposeful on the scripting and very purposeful on who we're going after. What happens is, and you mentioned earlier, Sharon, on leverage, right, is that you take a database of 1,000 people, right? You have 1,000 people in your database. The likelihood that you're actually calling those individuals every single month is very unlikely. You're busy. You're selling homes. We understand. And so the concern of, I don't know if I want someone calling on my behalf compared to me. Well, if no one's calling, then that's just money out the window. So
zero conversion. That's called zero conversion.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so what we do is we work with the scripting, and it can be as intricate as really taking them through like the entire qualification process. We have some clients that hey, I want this person ready to meet with me, and they're buying a home within 3 months. Awesome. That's going to obviously be a lot less people that we're pushing your way, but there's still going to be people we're pushing your way. And then others are just like, hey, if they're thinking about buying or selling in the next 12 months and they picked up the phone for you and they're open to speaking to me, get them in front of me, right? And I'll take care of the rest. And both are successful for both parties, but we can design that with you on how you want, especially when working the database. Once again, we know brand representation is important. We know your database is your baby. We completely get that. And we'll design with you what you want us to work to. Because same thing, and I know, a lot of these agents here listening, you do have time dedicated for lead generation. If I can get you focused on the 6 month or less business and not have to worry about touching the people who are 6 months out or more, and constantly be putting those people back in front of you once they're at that point, your lead generation now turns into closing for the appointment. That's like all of your follow-up becomes. It's follow-up on closing. And so it's a funner follow-up process, I'd say, than the cold calling aspect.
Yeah.
Well, I think your point is it doesn't replace the agent's actual lead generation. It's not in lieu of, it's an add-on, right?
Yep. It's to help them take it's the Pareto's principle, right? 20% of what you do is going to get 80% of the results. So how do I get you the most optimal 20% of your leads? Because that's going to get you 80% of your business now. And that other 80% of your leads that are in the database that still need to be touched will eventually dump into that 20%, that pool that's going to get you that now business. But it's going to take time nurturing and working.
Yeah, one of my favorite experiences with you guys, Andrew, has been, so you've got a great business partner, JP Wells, and so I do a lot with JP when we're making introductions, and so we talk a lot about customization, and he promises you'll do whatever, and he gives that off to Andrew, and Andrew's got to figure out how to make it happen, but no, I love it that you guys really do customize and help build out. We're working with a team currently that I've been on some meetings with you with that is really kind of getting set up. This is very new to them. This is very different than what they've done historically, but they realize that there's so much opportunity and things that they're not able to follow up on, and that that your way of helping them see the value, and then of course of putting together that solution for them is amazing. And I am certain that they're going to see a very significant increase in business in 2021 as a result of engaging you guys as a business partner.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, Andrew, I really appreciate your time today. If you're watching this and you want more information on Phone Animal, please reach out to anybody on the screen right now. We are happy to help get you connected to Andrew. And there is just, we can kind of talk about some of the intricacies. Now, Andrew, you mentioned earlier about you've got ISAs, you've got US-based ISAs, we've got ISAs in Jamaica and the Philippines.
Yep.
And so when it comes to cost, there's a difference in cost as well, but there's also a difference in familiarity with Western culture. And so that is something else that I think is really important to examine as you're figuring out what is right for you in your business.
Yeah, and one thing I'd say on that is it's easy, and especially nowadays with the amount of phone calls that I'm sure everybody gets, right, where you potentially get somebody on the other end who isn't necessarily from there, and sometimes you don't deliver the best experience for you. What I'd say is don't let that be a representation of what truly is out there. For us, we break down the script. We've done the calculation. There's 927 words in our script. We literally train word by word on how to say it, why to say it. For anyone that's having a struggle on saying a specific word, we'll flip it and customize it for that individual. They go through consistent training weekly, training something that never goes away. And what I'd say is that don't knock it till you try it, right? At least listen to some of our phone calls, especially if you hear that, Philippines an option. I know sometimes we get people that's their first kind of gut instinct. And then they hear our calls and they see the conversions and they're like, well, that does make a lot of sense and I'm open to it, right? So that's what I'd say, especially, knowing kind of that first gut instinct there.
Well, and I think
script practice.
Oh, sorry, Don.
I was just going to make a comment. I thought script practice with Jesse was rough, but we went word by word, man.
Yeah, right. This is a whole nother level. But what's interesting, if you listen to any of these calls that Andrew's team does, it's fascinating because you think that the folks in Jamaica are going to sound a certain way. Not that we're stereotyping, but they're not sitting here like the typical what you might think that sounds like. And they do a great job. They're all really good and easy to understand too. So.
And the last thing I'd say right now with inventory so tight, we're changing our scripts to really tell a story. People are getting astronomical prices for their home. And there's no guarantee that this is what it's going to be like 6 months from now, 8 months from now. And so we're having more now listing opportunities than we ever have before cold calling. Yes, are we getting as many yeses of I'm thinking of selling? Well, they're getting hammered, but we're definitely getting a lot more now opportunities to meet with individuals because sellers are starting to get obviously very privy on what's going on. They're seeing their neighbor home list. They're talking to them. It's like, yeah, I got 8 offers. I was 40,000 over asking, and they're hearing these things. And it's it's churning in their head. And then now all of a sudden they get a call from you who can really explain what's going on, and they can take advantage of what's occurring, right? I know nobody here on this call has a crystal ball. I think we all have a good idea that this, we hope that this continues to last. Not if you have buyers. I know it's tough with inventory being tight. It's maybe like, man, I wish inventory would go up, but we know that the market's going to remain pretty healthy for a good minute, but we don't know if how long that's going to be. And so we have a lot of sellers who are saying, okay, like right now is the time, if I'm going to take advantage of the market, to take advantage of it. So, cold calling, although we talked about some of these people being 6 to 12 months out, like honestly, if you were to put the pedal to the metal on it, like I guarantee you there's some listing opportunities that you can go find.
Well, again, I think the relevance to the current market is that this has to be part of what we're doing to proactively work for the clients that we have. I think the MLS is very quickly becoming only a portion of the transactions that are taking place out there. And I know when we talk more about the market, Jesse will tell you, to succeed at a high level in the current market, you've got to be going direct to people out there and finding out if they're willing to put something together. I think it's a wonderful market, and there's challenges. And so unless we're being proactive with our fiduciary duty to go out and explain to people what is happening in the market and how we have many solutions for them to take advantage of it, we're missing the mark on what our responsibility is in the industry right now. And so whether it's leveraging Phone Animal or doing this type of direct prospecting yourself, that is a requirement of our profession right now.
Absolutely. So, okay, Andrew, we're going to move into our market updates. I don't know if you were able to hang out with us or not. You're welcome to if you like. For those of you guys that don't know, Andrew is calling in from the only market busier than Phoenix right now, and that's Austin. So I think you guys even have less inventory than us, but you guys are ranked number 1 in the country in the real estate market, and we're right behind you at number 2. But you're welcome to hang out with us if you like. Otherwise, we totally understand if you need to take off and get cranking. So, oh, you're muted, Andrew.
I said I appreciate the time. I'll go ahead and let y'all jump into some of the updates that y'all want to give, and I appreciate everyone's questions on here. And please feel free to reach out to them directly. They can make the connection. We're happy to answer questions, be a resource. Of course, happy to talk about what it would look like getting in business together. And hope everyone has a great and safe weekend. And appreciate you having me on, Don.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk to you soon, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Well, that was great, and we really do appreciate Andrew being part of this. And let's talk about what we've got going on here, though. Jesse, Mindy, what is it looking like out there? Are we seeing any relief in the inventory area?
We're not seeing any relief, and I expect that this is probably going to continue to get more challenging, especially if real estate agents aren't doing their job and going out and talking to people about the stories and the solutions. We've got a lot of people out there who are nervous about what happens next once they sell, even if they understand that there is a good opportunity for them to sell. And what happens next, there's actually many solutions for folks. They can leverage things like you talked about last week with Easy Knock and leaseback opportunities. You can also get standard leaseback opportunities on the market right now because many buyers are vying for the same home. And if that means they can't move in for 3 months, but they get today's market value and get into the house, they are more flexible now than ever to be able to do that. So when we look at the inventory, we can also break it down by price range. So we actually only have about 4,000 homes available on the market in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area, with an average days of inventory at sitting about 2 weeks. But if we break that down even further and we look at the amount of listings under $500,000 and then again above $500,000, you start to see a little bit of a difference. And so if we look at listings under $500,000, we've only got about 9 days of inventory. And if we look above 500,000, between $500,000 and $1 million for a list price, we've got double that at about 18 days of inventory. And if we look over $1 million, and again, all of these are very small numbers, so it's all short compared to what is quote unquote a normal market, but there is a difference. And so then if you look at above $1 million, we actually have 75 days of inventory. So I think that there's a couple of takeaways there. One really is to remember that not all markets are created equal, even within the valley. And so if you're used to working in a certain part of a valley, or as a consumer, if you've been focused on a certain part of the valley, it's important to remember that if you're trying to take advantage of the benefits of the current real estate market, one of the things you might consider is some other geographic options, because what we're experiencing here in the Southeast Valley is even tighter than other parts of the valley. And so we may look at other areas that may be the same distance from your work, or maybe you don't have to drive to work any longer. There might be new areas that you hadn't expected to take a look at. But in order to take advantage of what we're seeing right now in the market, you may explore that. We've also talked about what that could mean for you from a prospecting perspective. And this is something that Jesse shared with us in a mastermind that we had last week. And it was really around when we're going out and looking at those neighborhoods and where we're trying to attract our sellers. First is for the sellers that have a product that our current buyer pool is looking for. And second, for the sellers where it may be a little bit easier for them to make a move. So if you're looking at the population sitting above $500,000, those folks have a little bit more wiggle room as far as what's available in inventory if they're making a lateral move. And then they have a significant more wiggle room if they're making an upgrade right now, which many people are doing given what the percentages are on their mortgages. So I think breaking these numbers down and really understanding them can not only help you strategize for your business, for the real estate agents that are out there watching, but also for the consumers that are watching, really understanding where you can take advantage of the market right now and what options you have.
Yeah, so I'll just add to that. That is my what I'm coaching to right now is and you've heard me say before, I think on this, it's definitely skill and will, and that this keeps getting an additional exclamation mark added to it at the end of it as inventory continues to shrink. We're appreciating 2 to 3% a month, and on track to appreciate at 30%. This year. So the sooner you do something, the better, right? As a buyer, if you're a seller buyer, then it doesn't matter because it's house money, right? You're going to sell here and you're going to buy here and capture the appreciation on your new home. I think the biggest thing as we have these conversations and what Mindy was saying that I'm talking about is you got to go direct with an offer. Direct to the door with an offer and articulate the market and what it means to them in their situation, and then create the path for them to move forward. So it's not, listings are low. Would you like to sell? I can get you more money than I could in 10 years. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but what does that mean to me? And a rule of thumb for me is if you or who you're speaking with hasn't pulled out a calculator in the conversation, you haven't gone deep enough in the conversation. Right?
Right.
So the other thing I want to the point of, because there is certainly, if I sell, where am I going to go? There is 10 to 20% of transactions that are happening off market. So when it's important to engage a professional, and if you're just looking through search portals with non-accurate, up-to-date information, and not all of the information, i.e., new builds, and inventory that is not on the MLS, sellers But sellers and buyers can be making decisions thinking there's not something available for them based on the information that they have access to.
And they're just at a disadvantage because they only know however many people they know. I think that's the big defining factor right now. If you're working with the right real estate agent in this community, your sphere just expanded exponentially. So while you know some people at work who say, yeah, maybe we'd like to buy your house, or from your social group, yeah, we're interested in your area or whatever, when you're working with the right real estate agent, they should be engaged, like we are here in our office with nearly 300 agents, should be engaged in a conversation of, here's what my buyer needs looks like, here's what my seller needs looks like, how can we make a match, here's the challenges that my seller has. They don't have the ability to go on market and have 1 million people come through their house. They don't have the ability or the comfort level to take an offer and not have some flexibility about when the move-in date is. Here's what those are. Where is there a match? And I have seen just this week alone, probably a dozen examples I can give you where someone who has a seller who's hesitant to go to the market says, here's my list of demands, if you will. Here's the things that would make this actually feasible for me. And then you see immediate responses from agents who are active in this area saying, I've got at least 3 people who will do all of that and more to take advantage of 30% annual appreciation today. And they're qualified and they're ready to go. So much of that is happening off market, but only if you have access to that. And off market is not the same as putting a sign in your yard as a for sale by owner. That is not off market. What that is a pure disadvantage to yourself from not being connected to what's actually happening in the industry, which is not being displayed on the MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's really important that we've talked about this over and over again, but that people are connected to the right people. When you're connected to the people who are in the know and who are going to have the solutions, right? Because Jesse, you bought your house recently, right? And we were getting a little preview of the kitchen here, and but Jesse, you actually went to your office and said, this is what I want to buy. Who can help me find it in this neighborhood? And then you did the lease back as well, right? You let the sellers lease it back up until they were ready to move on. So this is really happening out there. Knowing these tools and skills and resources is really important, and be able to make those calls with having a buyer in mind is important as well. And I just wanted to share real quickly. So Easy Street Offers is a website. So if you don't have a buyer right now and you're trying to call and circle prospect and do the kind of things that we were speaking about with Andrew, Easy Street Offers is buying for multiple funds and organizations that will buy at full market value. So they will also do lease backs. They will also offer those opportunities. And for our partners out there, the compensation is very much in line with what you would get on a normal traditional sale. So there is an opportunity to call when you're doing your circle prospecting and say, I have a buyer, because you do. Easy Street Offers will write an offer on just about any property. So,
well, not to one up them or anything, but you could literally just put my website down there at the bottom, because we do have buyers. So if you're out there circle prospecting and you get a listing, feel free to call the Amy Jones group, because we definitely have buyers who are looking for houses, right? Like, I think all of these partners are great. And the beauty is there's a million solutions for sellers right now. So for people out there who are watching, if you are afraid of making a move because the market's moving so fast and there's such low inventory, then let's just sit down and figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Because I think that's the other part of this. Is one, you have a lot of things swirling in your head all at one time, and you're making decisions maybe without having the full story or the whole package or understanding all of the options to you. But the second part is, I think you've got a lot of real estate agents out there that are trying to make decisions for you, and real estate agents who think that they're sending you in one direction. And many people are trying to move right now because, maybe they want a bigger house or they want to fix something. A lot of times they want to fix something financially. And so what they're going to get into right now, even if it's not everything that they want, it may be helping them become a better buyer at some point. And it's not for us to say, oh, it's too hard to find a house, so you shouldn't list your house right now. What if it helps you pay off all of your debt, put some cash in your pocket, allows you to be a competitive buyer? This may be life-changing for people. So I would just say, if you don't know how much equity you have in your house, reach out so you can find out exactly how much that is. And then once you find out what that is, what would that do for your family? And then build a plan around that.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left. Our time is really flying today. And I want to make sure, poor Amber's been waiting, and she's like, I've got such great information here. I'm giving away money for free this week. Literally. No, okay. So Amber, what's going on? How cheap is our money, and what are our products looking like out there?
Yeah, I mean, interest rates are still incredibly low. And so we have to remember that even with this rapid price appreciation that we're seeing, homes are still affordable because of how low interest rates are. And so that is very much helping our buyers right now. But interest rates will not stay this low forever. The Fed has been very clear in their communication that once unemployment drops into a normal range, which is anticipated to be 4 to 5%, they'll start to pull back on their mortgage-backed security purchase, which is going to make interest rates rise. Right now, unemployment's at 6.3%, so we're not really sure when we're going to reach the level that they're going to start to pull back. And a lot of the driver for the stock market and the bond market is going to be the infection rates. And as we see them start to decline, businesses start to reopen, things start to get back to some kind of normalcy, that will also be when we start to see some interest rates rising. And the prediction based off of vaccines and how many people are being vaccinated is that by middle to late summer, we could have herd immunity, which at that point, things are really reopening. And, at that point, I'm expecting that we'll see interest rates up quite a bit. So it's an incredible time to be purchasing with these interest rates and the twos and the affordability that it creates. So from a lending perspective, I'm just continuing to remind our buyers that are getting discouraged, that are losing out on offers, why they want to stay the course, why they want to continue to be aggressive and buy in this market, because it's such a unique opportunity to get into our market that's appreciating so rapidly, coupled with the lowest interest rates that we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and with these interest rates so low, it makes your spending go so much further, and that's really, when people get hung up on the dollar amount for a house, when we can look at those interest rates and like and I've heard everybody talk about people living by their payments, and that's that important part to keep an eye on is what does this cost me each month? If I could buy more house. And still spend less money each month, that's still something that works for me. So.
Yeah, we're constantly talking about payment. Don't focus on the sales price, focus on the payment. Yes, you may be offering $30,000 over list price or over appraised value, but if we can structure it in a way where your payment is where you wanted it to be, you're comfortable with it, and we can keep your cash to close in the range that you're comfortable, don't worry so much about the price, because that starts to get people nervous. We got to focus them on the right things that make the most impact to their financial life.
Amber, you and I were having a conversation yesterday too, because obviously we always talk about primary residence, it seems like, but on investments, you guys are so competitive on second home on mortgages and stuff too, which is great.
We're seeing a lot of that. I mean, people wanting to take advantage of this appreciating market and selling and, coming out to Arizona to buy. So much opportunity right now. Yeah.
And you guys are definitely competitive in that space. So,
yeah.
Okay. We have about a minute and a half left. So quickly, does anybody have any events coming up that they want to discuss? Anything going on that we need to make sure that we're filling everybody in on?
I got, I'll share Family Reunion with you,
Yes.
Which is a great training event that if you're not with Keller Williams, you can attend. If you just reach out to KLR, I'll get you an email.
Yeah, well, you can reach out to any of us, and we'll be able to help get them plugged in.
So I'll just show you, can I show you a little snapshot of it?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Pop some popcorn.
Hello, Keller Williams. It's Marlise.
Oh, wait, Jesse, you're not screen sharing.
You're walking through
Oh.
You're just watching it yourself.
Reunion digital
Oh,
platform.
dang it.
But we can hear it, so that's good.
Yes. There we go. Oh, there we are.
All right. It's quick.
Hello, Keller Williams. It's Marlise, your KWRA HQ correspondent, here to walk you through some of the hottest new features of the Family Reunion digital platform. This year, the world's largest real estate training event looks a little different, but you can expect cutting-edge vision, innovation, breakouts, and culture to prepare you to win the real estate market of today and tomorrow. Let's start with the exhibit hall, where you can find the exhibitor you're looking for based on the business problem you're trying to solve. And while you're bouncing around, you can keep up with what's happening on the main stage thanks to the sticky video player that stays on the bottom of your page, even if you leave your virtual room. Just don't leave your physical room. We're also thinking way outside the Zoom box with interactive workshops, breakout sessions, master classes, and my personal favorite, game shows. But the real theme of this year's event is connection, and there are plenty of ways to do it. Connect with Gary and other headliners through emoji reactions in the general session chat. Connect with your fellow attendees and grow your referral network by bouncing around the new topic and role-based chat rooms. And connect with your friends and followers by recording and sharing custom video and photo content in the virtual social studio. All you need is an internet connection and a passion for growing your business. There's so much more that's going to set FR apart from any other real estate conference this year. Insights from the industry's biggest names, a library of video recordings you can access during or after the event, and the final round of the first ever KW Script Off Championship. But it's best if you experience it all for yourself February 15th through 18th by registering for Family Reunion today. See you there.
Yeah. So if you're interested in joining that, do not register on this site. Contact me. Just send me an email, jesse@theherfelgroup.com, and we will get you registered.
Excellent. Yeah, and I want to go hang out with that Willie Nelson statue.
Right? Yes.
All right, you guys.
Sit down and marinate on things for a little bit there with Willie.
Yeah.
John, I have one class to mention. We have a Instagram Reels class coming up, class, but it's going to be over Zoom on March 4th. You can get a hold of your Fidelity sales executive or Don or I, and we'll be happy to get you over some information on it. It's going to be taught by Dina Jones, director of our marketing department, as well as Chelsea Pites, who, as you know, through social media is the social media guru out there. So hope you can join us for that. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for being part of this today. Mindy, congratulations on your event last week as well. It was so great. I wish I had stayed longer, but I've gotten such great feedback about it, and I know we've got some exciting stuff coming down the pike on that as well. So thank you guys, everybody, and we look forward to seeing everybody back next week.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.